Welcome to Child Custody University. The requirement to share custody between parents is not natural, and considerations for the children should always be the focus of discussions and decisions. There are many books written about the impact of parents' divorce on their children. Our work specifically deals with issues that should, could, and will impact litigation. As a rule, litigation is a bad decision. There are times when litigation is necessary. Understanding the process and the other options before you commit to an action that drains your resources and escalates conflict is a parental responsibility that you might not know you have. There are several methods available for parents to create an agreement and have an order created and signed by a judge. Hiring an attorney, conflict, and litigation is not the only way. Our favorite three are mediation, attending counseling with the specific purpose of overcoming the conflict in co-parenting, and honest and respectful communication. Every state has a list of what the jurisdiction considers when deciding the best interest of the child. This can be a helpful guide while mediating the issues. Child Custody University uses creative custody orders, a part of Child Custody University intended to be a guide for resolution. You should know that court personnel do not appreciate your patronage. They all would rather every parent resolve their disagreements outside of a courtroom and not litigate. There are statistics that show parents who resolve issues without a trial are much less likely to experience litigation later, and they experience less conflict regarding the custody in the future. There is no amount of conflict about custody that children benefit from. Litigation includes spending a lot of money, constant stress, gaining weight, looking less attractive, and your kids getting less attention. The judge might have liked you at the beginning of the process, but at the end of the process, at trial, maybe not. If litigation happens, Child Custody University will increase your understanding of the process and skills, gathering evidence, filing forms, winning and saving money. In a disputed custody situation, the sign of a great parent is not as much about the behavior of the children as it is the behavior of the parent. Understanding the evolving boundaries and respecting the childhood of your children are skills that matter a great deal and become very apparent at trial. You should expect your words and actions to be misunderstood or even manipulated to paint you in a negative light. There are rules to follow, and you should know how to best communicate and conduct yourself in this process. Paramount is to never display conflict in front of your child. Ask yourself, do you think your children want to see their parents suffer from the differences in themselves? Always remember that when you display hatred for their other parent, it is a display of hatred for half of who they are. Child Custody University exists because 3 children were alienated to the point of making false allegations against their father, James Feehan. Their mother, Jennifer, with obvious intent and malice, bred hatred for James, their father, thereby slowly alienating the boys over time. The 3 young boys were manipulated into making several false allegations that were later either proven false or later, the kids admitted they made up their stories. These lies were the foundation of the relationship severing between James and his 3 boys, who are now all adults, by Jennifer, their mother. Jennifer worked as a PSR, or psychosocial rehab worker, interacting with the major players taking part in the criminal case that was later dismissed, but not prior to the children being completely alienated. The case was exploited in the child custody case by Jennifer. After the children were alienated and before the proof that their stories were made up, a trial gave custody to Jennifer. 2 counselors, Mydell Yeager and Andrea Leeds, no longer licensed in the state of Idaho where this case took place, used the made-up stories by the children to convince a judge that the children were estranged by James. The children made these stories up while in the counseling care of Mydell Yeager. This worked. To this day, the children still show contempt and hatred for their father, James. There is a theme to the current communications of the oldest of the 3 children. He chooses protecting and defending his mother rather than having honest and sincere communication. He perceives the truth as an attack. It is apparent that from his perspective, his mother is fragile, a victim, and should not be held accountable for her actions, as they were appropriate based on her feelings. James never claims to be without fault, but the degrees of accusations and actual allegations were outright false and malicious. The hatred his children show cannot be justified with any reasonable explanation, and no reasonable discussion appears possible. This background is intended to help you understand the importance of our module about the mental health industry. In most cases that are litigated, this industry is, or at least should be, considered as a resource for at least one of the parties involved. James cannot recall any consultation where he could not see the benefit of having the right individual from the mental health industry involved. There is also a necessary understanding of what the wrong individual looks like and how to deal with them. Linked to that course video will be the 2 effective complaints filed against the 2 counselors mentioned above and the rules of ethics governing these counselors for your reference. Child custody is not about your rights. It is about the healthy development of your children so they can flourish in life and not have a life of chaos and conflict. It is about making the best for your children out of a bad situation that you helped create. James learned about parental alienation in 2010 during the custody dispute. There was little information available then. 14 years later, the internet offers a lot of information. Solutions are almost non-existent. Child Custody University and parentalconflict.com is an attempt at being the solution to that, and the many hurdles within the child custody arena. Sacrificing for your children looks different once a home is broken and parents do not share time with their children, and instead split time with their children. It is a pain that is not fair. It is not normal for you. Most of all, it is not fair to the children. Focus on the children and sacrifice to bring them peace. Do not have them pay for your mistakes or bad judgment. As for the process of litigation being initiated, the initial papers are filed by a petitioner and then served upon the respondent. The formality of the process service is necessary, and if you file your case pro se, you need to know the rules of process service in your jurisdiction, and if you are the respondent, you need to understand the same rules, as well as the necessity and method to respond to the petition in a formal and legitimate manner. When you have questions, you can consider our coaching program and a free consultation with parentalconflict.com. I am closing this video, repeating a very important concept that I want you to remember. Sacrificing for your children looks different once a home is broken and parents do not share time with their children, and instead split time with their children. It is a pain that is not fair. It is not normal for you. Most of all, it is not fair to the children. Focus on the children and sacrifice to bring them peace. Do not have them pay for your mistakes or bad judgment.